Hi everyone, so this is my review on Seraphina by Rachel Hartman. This was sent to me by the lovely folk at Random House Australia, and this is the UK paperback cover edition thing. I've not seen the US cover up close. I've just seen like a small picture, but it looks quite cool, and it seems to have a more middle grade feel to it, I suppose, than this one. Although this one, I mean, like, doesn't really scream a certain age demographic. One thing I will say is that I'm kind of confuzzled as to why. It makes me wonder whether the cover designers ever actually read the book or listen to any of the detail given to them, I would assume, by the publishers and stuff. But Seraphina is meant to have dark tea-coloured hair, is what it's called, and tea-coloured makes me think dark brown, but rather here she's a redhead, and it seems to be kind of like a light ginger colour. So, I don't know, that just kept confusing me. Whenever her hair was described, I was like, why does her hair look like... Not that this girl's lovely, but I'm like, I don't... Anyway. So this book I've heard a great deal of praise about. I know it was quite a hyped book in anticipation of its release and things, and quite a few reviewers that I trust have really praised the book and enjoyed it immensely, and I really very much wanted to like it lots, and I did like it lots, thankfully, but it was one of those reads that for whatever reason it was very difficult for me to get into it and to follow what was going on. Now, I've not heard any other reviewer call this book confusing, so I do feel quite stupid and daft for getting lost and confused at times, but I'm just going to own it and admit to it. There's a glossary in the back of the book that has a cast of characters for you, and then a glossary of terms. And I don't think I could go 4 pages throughout the entire book without having to skip back and check things. My memory for names and things and terms is often really poor, so like that explained half of it, so I was always like, wait, what's that mean again? That's like, so if you've been watching me read this book at any given time during the whole thing, I would have been like, oh. Like, I did that the whole time. And even then, I found that there were terms that if it was mentioned in passing during the book, it wasn't necessarily in the glossary of terms at the back, because I guess it wasn't deemed important enough. So every now and then they'd mention a character or a saint, which was a big thing in the novel, and it wouldn't have a reference in the back, so I'd just make up a definition in my head. It didn't really have any significant weight to the plot or to what the characters were doing at the time, but I wanted to know who it was and what it meant, and they hadn't told me, so I was kind of like, well, I'm going to pretend that it's this. So I personally found that there were a lot of instances where things were mentioned and they weren't explained in the back. I should say that this is a novel where, for like an epic fantasy kind of story, they don't bog you down in detail too much at any given moment. The detail and information is revealed quite gradually and in interesting ways, often through dialogue between people, through flashbacks, through memories, that kind of thing. And I really found that refreshing and cool, and I liked that, like, you didn't just get to a chapter that was a huge info dump on you. But, having said that, it meant that you had to piece together a lot of the information yourself, which is why I was continually looking at the back of the book. So I felt like I had to work to get my information and work to, like, you know, piece together the puzzle and get this world-building thing going. And it's not that it wasn't an effective tool, and I really appreciate the effort that Rachel Hartman went to in how she constructed this, all the information, and put it into the plot really effectively, but it meant that I kind of felt tired at times and really slow and behind, and like I was ignorant and missing things because I didn't know what they were talking about a lot of the time. So, and the other thing, if you know me, then you know that I love getting my fantasy novels with maps. I love me some maps in my fantasy, and it's always a good sign to me, and there's no map. There's no map. There is no map. Now, admittedly, they pretty much stay within the one kingdom, but they mention even just a map of the city of Gorid, or however you pronounce that. I wanted to see where things were. They're travelling around places, like, and I wanted to see where's Seraphina's family home in relation to the castle, and I wanted to see where everything was. even if we didn't get a wider landscape of this country. I just wanted to see the city, because while it's fun to, you know, map it all out in your head and get the visuals there, I like having a map. It just makes it more fun, and there's no map. So I'm wondering, could you tell me, does the US edition come with a map? If not, someone tell Rachel Hartman we want one for the second book. I want me some maps, people. So that was really disappointing. Just for me. I'm like, oh, no map. On to the story, however. I very much enjoyed the story, even though I got confused and lost almost all the time. I've also found this was a novel where, you know, you're like, oh, I'll have a break. I'll put it down for a few days or something. I could not do that with this one, because when I picked it up, whilst I had some semblance of where I was, I kept having to turn the pages back to check what had come before so I could remember exactly where we were up to and what the context was. So again, this could just be me being really sluggish of mind lately, but yeah, I found I could not take a break from this without getting lost. So it's a book I advise, if you can, try and get through it all in one sitting or two sittings, like in short, you know, sequence of one another, so you can, like, stay on a constant stream of thought with the plot and such. But plot-wise, I really did enjoy it. Seraphina, I really did like her very much as a protagonist. I feel that there's still a lot more we can learn about her in terms of her emotion and her desires and things. I mean, that was investigated in a really interesting way, because so much of it is connected to other people. She has the burden, especially of her mother's legacy of being a dragon, and what that means for her, having a human father and a dragon mum, and also her uncle, Omar, who was my favoritist character. I loved Omar. I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong, but I don't care. I love that he struggled with emotions so clearly, because he was a dragon, and dragons can take human form, but they really struggle being in a human body and having human reactions to things, and they don't understand it. And it reminded me so much, this is showing my geekiness, it reminded me so much of Sherlock in the Sherlock TV series and all the subsequent fan fiction I've read. Benedict Cumberbatch's incarnation of Sherlock, it just reminded me so much all the times he's confused and baffled by what humans are doing, and like, is this what this emotion am I feeling emotion, what? I loved Omar so much. He was very much my favourite character, and his interactions with Seraphina were my favourite moments in the book by far. So I love him. I wanted to cuddle him all the time. But Seraphina, I really did care for her. I like that she had her flaws in terms of being, like, she was quite self-centered in her own anguish and her own pain, but she recognized this and came to learn from that, and it was still very much understandable. I mean, she's a teenager after all, and it would suck having dragon scales on you and feeling like an outcast, and you have all these secrets you have to keep, and all these lies you keep having to tell to just protect others around you, not just yourself. So it's a big burden to carry. I really liked the notion. It reminded me of Eon and Iona a little bit in terms of the psychology of the way she has to keep things under control. Like, she has her, like, this area she goes to in her mind to keep these visions out and to keep things in order. It's just a really interesting concept, and the visuals of it were really detailed and cool. And for some reason I kept harking back to when I read Eon and Iona by Alison Goodman, and that's a good sign, because I love those books. So that was really interesting. Her relationship with Kiggs, who's one of the princes, that was a really refreshing and genuine and really likeable love story. I'd heard good things about it from Misty at the Book Rat, and I thought, well, if Misty says that, then that's a pretty good sign. And I found I really enjoyed it. I like that you do genuinely get to know the both of them as separate entities, as individuals before they come together, and their relationship doesn't start as a love story right from the get-go. It's them forming a comradeship and a mateship that, you know, grows into something more, and you can see that they have a chemistry and they get along really well, but it's not, you know, they're not looking at each other and thinking, oh, I'm attracted to you and I love you. They, like, literally just start off thinking, oh, I'm probably going to have to help you out, we'll have a conversation and stuff, and then it builds from there in a really natural fashion, and I liked it a lot. And Kiggs I liked. Again, I like that he was flawed. He says that he's, like, an innately really curious person, and then he follows through on that. He's actually annoying with all the questions he asks, and the fact that he's just always so damn persistent with wanting to get answers for things. But at least that's, like, I hate when you are told something about a character, or they state something about themselves, and then you never see that in evidence, like it's never proven. It's like when, like, someone says, oh, I'm a big reader, and then they never read. So I hate that. So at least in this instance, like, one of the, like, major personality traits of Kiggs was you know, scene throughout the books. That was good. I like that their relationship isn't going to be an easy thing to get to, and the fact that they have very real considerations like impeding them from getting together. And I like that, this is another thing I hate, the notion of when you, like, someone you like is with somebody else. In this instance Kiggs is betrothed to Zelda, who's his cousin, and whenever that's kind of the situation you're dealing with, it's usually that the other person, the third wheel in the thing, is like annoying or unlikable or bitchy or douchebaggy or whatever, and you're not meant to like them, and they're painted in a really negative light so that you can feel more sympathetic for the two romantic leads. But in this instance, Giselda is like a really decent girl. She's kind of airy and like, you know, like, I don't know, very, very girly, very gossipy, very flighty, very happy-go-lucky, but she's a really decent young woman who's trying to do the right thing, and she's learning from her mistakes, and she's growing as a person, and you can get the sense, as Seraphina says, that she's going to be a really good leader and monarch of the kingdom one day. So, and she's a decent kid, and so you don't feel like, you know, she's in there to be a party pooper and to spoil the fun and to, like, and it makes it even worse in a way because she's a nice person. You feel bad for Seraphina and for Kiggs because they want to get together, but he's betrothed to this really decent human being, and it just makes it even more awkward and uncomfortable and stuff. So I like that. I really appreciated that element. And plot-wise, there were quite a few surprises in here. Certainly things towards the end that I didn't see coming. I like that there were kind of a few mysteries and things going on, but it never felt as though you were getting like distracted from like a central focus. The focus ultimately was Seraphina's like coming into her acceptance and her own struggles, and then everything else was sort of an offshoot from that, and it worked well to come together, so I really appreciated the story building in that sense. And yeah, I had a very good time with it, and there were lots of supporting characters that were cool. And I'm really curious to meet more of the half-breeds that are like Seraphina and the friends she makes in this one. I also like that there's stuff like tiny little subplots and sub-themes you didn't see coming, like homosexuality's in there, and that took me completely by surprise. But I really like that it was dealt with because it's bringing up, you know, the idea of like a social what's considered a social defect by a lot of people, and something that makes you socially isolated, and you know, it's a kind of taboo thing in the same way that Seraphina's dragon lineage is. So yeah, I didn't see that coming, and that was really nice. So I just think things were handled really well. I look forward to the rest of the series. I really want maps, and yeah, I had a good time with it, and it didn't end on a cliffhanger either, so it was just a nice build into something, and it's going to hopefully go seamlessly into the next book, but you didn't feel the need to end it with a whoa moment, so that was good. And yeah, I really did have a very good time with it, so I'm going to give it 4.5 stars out of 5, or 4.75 stars out of 5 or something. Not quite getting 5 just because I was so confused the whole time, but I think that's my own head's fault. So I very much had a good time with it, and I think it's going to be a really universally liked book. So give it a whirl, pick it up, and I think you'll enjoy it. So, Seraphina by Rachel Hartman.